Did you know a key feature of CBT is that your thoughts influence your emotions and your emotions influence how you behave? Central to this is your belief system, which is made up of 3 different levels of thought and plays a significant role in how you interpret and respond to situations. These layers consist of automatic thoughts, underlying rules and assumptions, and your core beliefs. Identifying and understanding these levels can help you make sense of issues such as anxiety and depression, or explain why you may be stuck in certain patterns of unhelpful behaviour, or why you struggle in certain interactions with others. In this video, we'll be looking at your 3 levels of thought and how these beliefs can also be changed to help you feel better and even behave differently. Think of a tree with 3 distinct but connected levels, these being the roots, the trunk and the leaves. Now think of yourself being like that tree, and that your own thoughts and beliefs are these 3 levels. The leaves, which are your automatic thoughts, the trunk, which is your rules and assumptions for doing life, and the roots, which are your core beliefs. Now these 3 levels are also connected and influence how you feel and how you behave. So let's take a closer look at each layer. Level 1, the leaves, are your automatic thoughts. These are the fleeting and habitual thoughts that pop into your head in response to situations throughout the day. They can be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, and may also consist of images or specific memories. In particular, our negative automatic thoughts are so habitual that we tend to accept them as facts. However, after delving into them a little deeper with the help of therapeutic techniques, these thoughts may be revealed as slightly distorted or even inaccurate. These negative thoughts are also associated with emotions such as anxiety, shame, frustration, or sadness. For example, let's say a good friend has promised to call you at 10 p.m. and ask you to wait in for the call, but the time comes and goes and there's no phone call. How might you feel? Well, you could feel many things: anxiety, anger, sadness, or even some relief, which are all contingent on what you think is the reason for them not phoning. For example, you might think something has happened to my friend, which might then trigger flashing images of your friend being involved in a terrible accident and result in you feeling anxious and then repeatedly calling them until you receive a response. Or you might think they do not care enough to remember me, which may trigger a memory of being rejected by your peers at school, which then leaves you feeling sad. This may result in you avoiding making a call to them and then not sleeping properly as you ruminate on why they've forgotten you. Or you might think they decided to accept a last-minute invitation to a party and were enjoying themselves so much that they forgot to call, which leaves you feeling angry and sending a grumpy message. Now the key point is that there are several ways to interpret this event, and how we choose to interpret or perceive events has a consequence for our mood and our behaviour. Now, anxious negative automatic thoughts are usually related to perceptions of danger and can result in escalating catastrophic predictions about what we think will happen in the future. Depressive thoughts, by contrast, are usually related to negative thoughts about yourself, the world, and the future, and can correlate with feelings of deep sadness or hopelessness and have the effect of leaving us feeling very unmotivated. Level 2, the trunk, is your intermediate or middle layer of belief, known as underlying assumptions and rules for life. These are your unique underlying instructions on how things are, how things should be done, and what you and others are allowed and not allowed to do. They guide your conduct in life and often exist just below or just above our conscious awareness. They may consist of rigid rules such as I must never let anyone down or I must always be strong. Or they might begin with conditional if and then statements. For example, if I'm criticised, it means I'm a failure. If others are disappointed in me, then I am not good enough. Rules and assumptions may also be culture specific. For example, if you grew up in a family where working hard and being successful was of great importance and laziness was frowned upon, you may have developed a rule which says, if I work hard, then I will always be successful. Rules and assumptions are generally learned and developed through trial and error and observations you had made earlier in your life. You may or may not consciously know that you've developed these rules, but they consistently influence how you feel and how you behave throughout your life. Now, some rules can be helpful, some rules can be unhelpful. Certain rules may have worked well for you at the time and most likely served a function to protect or advance you in some way. But as life progressed or your circumstances changed, they lost their potency and became outdated. As a CBT therapist, I'm interested in understanding your unhelpful or unrealistic rules and assumptions and helping you to update them. Now, I like to use examples. So let's take an example of John. John had a rule which states, I must be perfect, otherwise I'm not good enough. John learned this rule growing up, where he'd be severely criticised by his father if he made a mistake. John learned and practiced this rule to protect him from the harsh criticism of his father, but his perfectionism became increasingly difficult to maintain as his life progressed. Eventually, John made a mistake at work, which resulted in him being reprimanded by his boss. John's active rule had been broken, which led to a flow of self-critical negative automatic thoughts as he berated himself for being such a fool and worried about how his boss and colleagues would now see him. In response, John then decided to raise his standards even higher, placing even more pressure on himself, which eventually led to more mistakes being made, and John eventually burning out. So unhelpful rules and assumptions are generally more rigid and inflexible and cause us to feel and behave in more negative ways when they're activated. Helpful rules in this context are more flexible and may also account for the occasional imperfection or mistake being made as part of life's natural flow. For example, a helpful rule might be, I can strive for excellence, but if I make a mistake, it means I'm human and I can grow and even learn from the experience. This allows for the healthy pursuit of your aspirations and reduces the risk of demotivational feelings and behaviours when you encounter the inevitable imperfect bumps in the road of life's journey. Finally, level 3, the roots, are your core beliefs. Core beliefs are the fundamental beliefs you hold about yourself, others, and the world. They're often formed in early childhood and are fused with deep emotion. They influence your rules and your negative automatic thoughts and usually sit below our conscious awareness. Core beliefs often start with the statements, I am, others are, and the world is. And they are the beliefs which you feel at your core. When all is said and done, these are the beliefs that you are left with. So let's look at another example. Olivia had a neglectful upbringing. Her mother was very critical and her father left when she was just 5 years old. Olivia's mother told her when she was still relatively young that she only got married because she fell pregnant with Olivia and would often say, if it wasn't for you, I'd be doing such and such right now. Olivia's mother would also regularly remind Olivia of what she'd given up in order to provide for her when she was growing up. Olivia began to feel that she was the reason that her mother had not done more with her life, and her mother hinted on more than one occasion that she felt like leaving home, which Olivia took as a serious threat of being abandoned again. Over time, Olivia began to develop beliefs and ideas about herself and others. Other people don't want me around. I stop people from doing what they want to, and if I assert my own needs, I will be rejected and abandoned. Olivia developed a core belief which said, I am a burden, and she carried this belief around throughout her life. These beliefs were glued into place by the deep emotion she felt during her difficult life experiences. As an adult in situations of conflict, Olivia reacted by putting her own feelings aside and appeasing the other person in order to prevent her from being rejected and abandoned. Olivia's default self-protection strategy was submission, which she had learned was the only way to survive as a child. Now, if the leaves are our negative automatic thoughts and the trunk are rules and assumptions, and the roots are core beliefs, then the soil in which the tree grows from seed is our childhood and life experiences. In her 40s, Olivia went to CBT therapy and began to understand how her childhood experiences had shaped her beliefs and her behaviours, and how these old learned patterns were no longer helpful to her. With the aid of her therapist, Olivia began a steady process of unlearning old beliefs and learning more helpful and realistic new alternatives. In time, Olivia was able to develop a healthy new core belief which said, I am of value and I have much to offer. Now, whilst we can't change the past, the good news is we can work on changing our beliefs in the present. This is made possible through neuroplasticity, which refers to the capacity of our brain to change and adapt in structure in response to learning. There's also mounting evidence to suggest that neuroplasticity is lifelong, rather than just peaking in our younger years as we previously believed. Negative automatic thoughts are the most easy to influence, and so we generally start identifying and reality testing these negative thoughts early on in therapy. We can use tried and tested CBT methods such as thought diaries, Socratic questioning, cognitive restructuring techniques, and behavioural experiments to achieve this. By recognising your automatic thoughts, you can also identify the underlying rules and core beliefs that influence them. Understanding these levels is crucial because it allows you to unlearn unhelpful or unrealistic thinking and behaviour patterns and custom build a set of new beliefs and behaviours that help you move forward in the way you want to. A CBT therapist will guide and support you through this process using a set of evidence-based techniques that have been scientifically proven to be effective. If you're interested in learning more about CBT or finding a CBT therapist, please check out the link in the description below. So whilst the past cannot be changed, the present and the future certainly can.